All right, so I think this may be working right now. I'm gonna have to see. So I know some of you were in a different location, and let's see if I can tell people. Okay, live at a different spot. Trying to find the link. Okay, so first, I want to apologize because this is a bit of a complete mess because we're trying to go live on this other, on our regular event, and it just wasn't working. And it's one of those things, I know this has happened to everybody where you are ready to do everything. I sit down, I test everything to make sure that it's working. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I'm about to go live, just boom, kaput. It's not working. So it is incredibly frustrating because, like I said, I think people are waiting in another spot, and here I am live right here. So it's a little confusing, but I'm going to see if I can kind of get that information and share that with people because I don't want them to be waiting around. So today there's quite a few things that I'd like to talk to you about and kind of go over with you. But first, it's been a crazy month. I'll say that. So as you know, some of you know, Yuan and I, we had our first child, a baby girl, Amelia. She's very healthy. Mother is doing well. So it's been an adjust to parenthood, very little sleep, but it's been very exciting as well. And that's the reason we kind of took a break from the live streams for a couple of weeks. But now we are getting back into the swing of things, and we're going to try and do live lessons every Saturday again, and kind of keep up with our normal schedule. This is a link to our current live lesson. I'm writing the other people in the other chat so they know, okay, where to go and where they should be. So what I want to do now is, let me just say hello. I want to say what's up. Mavi, Umu, Richard, Tato, Larissa, Dario, Rania, Anna, Saeed, Nasser, Robson. Thank you guys, Gabriela. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for being a part of the community. I really appreciate it. Hello, hello, hello. Want to welcome all of you guys. Today is just going to be a bit of a hangout. We're going to just hang out, and this is a little different from the other lessons that we've done because usually it's something very specific that we're doing each week, and I'm teaching something specific, and we do some activities, and I interact with you guys. Today, I just kind of want it to be more of a hangout, and I want to answer some of your questions directly. So if you guys have questions, just write them in the chat. And even if you're watching this later, I think this is great because it's going to be great listening practice. If you just want to listen to English and practice your listening skills, it's also going to be great because I will be answering questions about English and anything that you guys have, any questions about learning English. Or if you have questions about me, if you have questions about Ioana, if you have questions about interactive English. So it's also going to be great so that you get to know us a little bit better and you know what we are all about here on this channel. So again, hello, Giselle, Veja from Brazil, Taha, hello, hello, what's up? Asif, Long, so many familiar faces. Thank you guys for being here. In joining us. So Asif says, please talk about informal contractions. Well, I would say, again, we had a whole lesson on contractions that you should check out. And there are a lot of them. In the lesson that we did before, we talked about just your typical subject and verb contractions, especially with the verb to be. And I'd say any contraction is informal. It's important to learn because we use it all the time, especially in speaking. Instead of saying I am, you'd say I'm. Instead of saying we will. So it's good. I highly recommend to check out that lesson. You could just search our channel, Contractions, and I go over a bunch of them with you. And it's great listening. Once you know them, if you can identify them, it is great for your listening, because when you're having a conversation, I just used it, when you're having a conversation, we use them a lot. So it makes it so much easier to follow along the conversation. So check out that lesson. Brayan asks, are you coming to Colombia? I would love to visit Colombia. I was actually in Colombia about 10 years ago. I went to Bogota, Manizales, Medellin, Cartagena, and hiked around in Parque Tayrona. And I would love to go back because it is such a beautiful country. Jale, hello from the Philippines. Cebu. I would love to visit Cebu. I've heard a lot of great things about the Philippines and would love to visit. Aisha, hello from Pakistan. Hello, hello. Welcome. What's the difference between I like to plus infinitive or like plus ing? I like to go and or I'm liking. I'm kind of thinking like if your question is about gerunds and infinitives, like is a verb that you can it can be followed by a infinitive, I like to play, or it can be followed by a gerund, I like playing. So there are several verbs that can be followed by either a gerund and infinitive, and like is one of them. So I don't know if that was your question, but you can follow it with either one. Personally, I tend to go with the gerund most of the time. I like playing, I like dancing, I like singing. That's just me personally. So again, as you guys are asking questions, I want you, again, these are great questions. Try to keep in mind, make them specific, because sometimes we get very broad questions and people would ask, explain all the verb tenses. And that is something that would take hours to go through and talk about. So again, just try to keep the questions specific, like whether it's about a word and a meaning or how to pronounce a word, and we can kind of run through a bunch of different ones. Please spell my name. Lata. Is it spell my name, or you want me to say your name? Lata Barman. Hello, welcome. Thank you guys for joining us. What's the difference between 2 and 4? It's really that really depends, because prepositions can be really challenging. That was a question from Hey Yen about the difference between 2 and 4. Prepositions are very challenging because they're those small little function words that follow nouns, they follow adjectives, and sometimes you just need to, sometimes you can learn them and there are rules. For example, when talking about time and you say in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. And that way you can, okay, I know this. Other times you just have to kind of memorize and be familiar that you use it in this case. So for example, I said to you guys before, I said, I look forward to this live stream. I look forward to this event. And when you look forward to something, that's when you would use to. If we're talking about being responsible, you are responsible for something. We use it with that. The best way to learn those prepositions, honestly, is to read. Read. The more you read in English, you're seeing the words, you're seeing the grammar, you're seeing how these prepositions are used, and that is the best thing that I think you guys can do for yourself. Amano, Patricia, Priti, hello, how are you? Thank you guys for joining us. Welcome again. You guys feel free to ask questions. Somebody said, Osim, how do you spell, what's the difference between desert and dessert? So the pronunciation is a little bit different. Desert is to abandon. It is a verb. That is D-E-S-E-R-T, desert. And then desert, or no, it can also be a desert. So it can be to desert or a desert, which is a noun, which is a place, the desert. Now, dessert, which is D-E-S-S-E-R-T, dessert is what you would have after your main meal. You would have dessert. You would have a cake, you would have some ice cream, and you would have that for dessert. So don't confuse it. Dessert and desert Desert is the noun. But again, that is a multiple meaning word, desert, D-E-S-E-R-T. If we're using it as a verb, it also could sound like dessert. So it can be a little confusing. But again, the spelling for those two, it is different. Sir, let me ask you, I'm trying to find some more questions. Rosalinda asked about active and passive voice. Again, that's a bit of a broader topic. We do have a whole lesson, which I recommend you guys check out, about the active and passive. So many times, you guys will ask us about different things, and we have a full lesson on it. So what I'm going to do is, this is a great time because we're here, you guys are in the chat. I'm going to just see if I can find some of these links, and I'll just throw them in there. So if you are looking for information about the active and passive, I will find that for you right now, and I will link it in there because I suggest that you guys watch it. It gives you a bunch of information, active and passive. So while it's searching, I will do that. Let me see. Hello from Thailand, Indonesia. Great to have you guys here. Sorry if I missed some of your questions. I'm trying to read through this quickly. When somebody says, how are you, fixed for job or cash or money? So how should we answer that question? How are you fixed for a job? I'm not sure what you mean by like you're fixed for a job. How are you fixed? Are you fixed for cash? Are you fixed for money? I don't know if they're asking if you need some cash or you need some money. It's kind of an expression. And maybe try it. You can ask it again. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Whose name is John or called John? Which is the right thing? Nawar asks, I know someone, their name is John, or whose name is John, or call John. Okay. In this case, you could say, again, I know someone. If you want to say, I know someone, period, their name is John, or his name is John, then it's just two sentences. If you want to keep it if you want to make it a complex sentence, I know someone whose name is John. In that case, it would be an adjective clause, and you're just adding that information. I know someone whose name is John. Or you could say, I know someone called John. I think it's more common to say, I know someone whose name is John, or I know someone, his name is John. I think those are the more common ways, but it's a matter of grammar, whether it's two sentences or you're going to use it as an adjective clause. Please tell us your favorite idiom and its meaning. T99. All right, great. So I'd say my favorite idiom, I often say, like, a lot of times I say play it by ear, because I'm not somebody who likes to make definite plans. I like to make plans, but I also like to keep it open. So often I'd say, let's make a plan. Let's go out to dinner. And they say, okay, well, where are we going to go? I say, I don't know. Let's play it by ear. It means like, let's just take things as they come, and we'll decide a little later, or we'll decide at that moment. We'll just play it by ear. It's kind of like, we're going to do this thing, but you're going to be flexible to play it by ear. So that's something that I always tell people, like, oh, what are we going to do? And say, let's just play it by ear. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Let me give you the link. So if you guys are looking for that active and passive voice, here is the link to the lesson that you can go check out. All right, I'll just write it here: active versus passive. Boom. All right, so you guys can go check that out. That is a good link and good information. I'll talk a lot about active and passive. So Judy asked, pretty much, pretty well. Is that American or British? Honestly, I'm not sure how popular it would be in British English. I think it's used in both. I think it's used in American English. People would say, yeah, pretty much, or like, yeah, how are you doing? Yeah, pretty well. I think pretty much is definitely something that's used a lot in American English. But I don't think that's really much of a distinction between British and American English. I feel like it's used in both. So please visit India, Vishnu. Yes, we would love to visit India. That is another place it is on our list. And if we come to visit India, we will be sure to ask many of you who are from there where we should go. Where should we visit if we go to India? But we do love, that is probably perhaps one of our favorite cuisines. We love to eat Indian food. Yuana and I go out to eat Indian food all the time, and it's great. Let's see, what else do we have? Is it normal? Yaritza says, it is normal that you could be better in grammar, but when it comes from speaking English, you sometimes can't be fluent as much as you want. Any suggestion? I think that that's very common, that people have different skill levels. So for example, we would teach students before that might be great at speaking, or they might be more competent at speaking, but their writing was not so good. Or other students who were great at writing, or they had great listening skills, but when they were trying to speak and express themselves, it was a little more challenging for them. One thing I think for speaking, that makes it so much difficult, if people are afraid to make mistakes and they're filled with a little anxiety, then it becomes that much more challenging to speak and try to communicate with other people. So one thing I definitely suggest when it comes to speaking, don't worry about making mistakes. Just go out there and say what's on your mind. And if you're having trouble trying to express yourself, think of other ways to say it. And oftentimes people would say that they're like, oh, I don't know how to say this in English. If that's the case, one thing I would recommend, try to build your vocabulary. The more you build your vocabulary, the more you're going to be able to say exactly what you want to say. And that's really going to help you, so that you don't have to think and say, well, I'm not sure how to say this in English. So building vocabulary, I think, is something that will really help. And again, just trying to get that confidence so that you're not worried about making mistakes and you'll just say whatever. We've heard students are worried about making mistakes, could be because of grammar or even pronunciation. I know people they've avoided saying certain words because they think they're not pronouncing it correctly. So let's see. English, I said. Who else am I trying to read? Wow, they're going through these very quickly. I was wondering if you could tell us about to pronounce the flap T. All right, Naoya Kisaki, great question. In the future, we have done a lesson on the flap T. Yeah, I'm editing that lesson right now, and it'll probably come out in a couple of months. But the flap T is very common, especially in American English. It's when that T is kind of in the middle of the word. So that T sound is in the middle and it just sounds like a D. So better. Instead of B-E-T-T-E-R, instead of saying better, like you might hear more in British English, I just say better, which sounds more like a D. W-A-T-R, water. Water is another one. It just sounds like that D sound in American English when that T is in the middle. That's basically the flap T. Let's see. Laftia, why don't you visit Morocco? Yes, I'd love to visit Morocco. And if we come to Morocco, we're going to let you know. So many places to visit. And it's just, again, there's too many places on the list and just not enough time. So hopefully we'll get to visit all of these places where you guys are from, and that we'd get to let you know and maybe even do some meetups. One thing that I want to tell you guys, which again, I am so sorry for, is that we've now come out with a bit of a newsletter to make another connection with you, to send you guys useful and free information. So if you're if you're interested in signing up for that newsletter, here is the link. I'll say sign up here. All right. You can go to the site, put in your email. We're not going to spam you and send you emails every single day. We'll just send you stuff from time to time about useful free resources, things that we're doing. You can also access our secret fluency lesson. The reason I'm apologizing is because many people have signed up already and we've been in communication with them, but there was a problem that we were not receiving emails. And a few days ago, I fixed that. So now that we are receiving emails, if you responded to one of our emails and sent us something, we will get that now. If you wrote us an email in the past and we didn't respond, it's because we didn't get it, and I apologize, but things are working now. Kurt Barton, can you come to Canada? Yes, we would. We were in Canada 2 years ago. We visited a friend in Montreal, and it was great. So Sai W, I'm from Hong Kong. The first time watch a live broadcast. Welcome. Thank you for joining this live broadcast. So here we're all about practicing and improving your English skills. If you did not know what interactive English is and you guys are joining us for the first time, my name's Wes, and that is what we are all about doing. We come out with weekly lessons each week, all about helping you guys practice and improve your lessons. Practice and improve your English. And if you guys like what we do, please hit that like button. We always appreciate that. Luli, I love your video lessons from Saudi Arabia. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're happy to have you as part of our community. Love it when you guys are here and just hanging out. So Giselle, can you help us to pronounce? Okay, let's look at some of these words. Curtain. The first one, curtain, button. You don't really hear that T sound, button. Mountain. Again, sometimes American English will just say mountain and you almost drop that T, but mountain in the American accent. So I'd say curtain, button, mountain in my very American accent. Who is it? Citing in the answers. Why we use she for any country? Aisha Khan asked, why do we use she for country? That's a good question. I think that's something that sometimes certain objects will just get assigned a gender. I really don't know why. For example, oftentimes cars will get referred to in the female gender, and they will talk about it as she. I'm not really sure exactly the history behind that, but again, you're right. A lot of times countries will get referred to with the feminine female gender. Please, who is it? Where is it? Angelina, please answer my question too. It's really confusing. Wait, where was your question? Maybe I missed it before. Oh, why the words work, would, homework, housework, etc. never are pronounced like the word nurse, while their phonetic for the vowels are the same. Work, world, homework are not pronounced like the word nurse, even though the vowels are the same. Honestly, I have another great lesson that's going to come out in the future. The thing, we did another lesson before about spelling and pronunciation, and in English, it's just crazy and confusing, and so much of it doesn't make sense, the spelling and the pronunciation. The reason for that is because over time, pronunciation changes. It doesn't change immediately, but over hundreds and hundreds of years, it does change, and it's changed in English. But one thing hasn't changed, sometimes spelling has not. And for that reason, sometimes we get silent letters that are no longer pronounced. For that reason, sometimes vowels are pronounced differently within words. In the future, we're doing a lesson. It's not really a lesson. It's a pronunciation poem. It's called The Chaos. And the reason for this poem is that it's all about just showing you that spelling and pronunciation are ridiculous and they don't match up. And sometimes there is no rule to it. You just need to learn how these different words are pronounced and said. And a great way to do that, I know many of you practicing your listening, sometimes people don't like using subtitles because they think, well, if I'm using subtitles, I really just want to practice my listening. But if you're using subtitles, it does help make it a bit of a pronunciation lesson, because then you're able to see the word, you're able to see the spelling, and you're able to hear the correct pronunciation. So I think that's a great way to practice, to kind of identify how certain words are pronounced. Kurt Barton, say pickle in English. Pickle. All right, there you go. A pickle. You can be in a pickle. If somebody is, that's an idiom. If somebody is in a bit of a pickle, it means that they are in a troubling situation. So there's another idiom, to be in a pickle. You can have a troubling situation. And in French and Spanish, I'm not really sure. So sorry, I can't help you with that one. Let's see. Greetings from the Ukraine. Olivia, thank you very much. Yes. Glad you guys like our lessons. Glad you guys glad you think I'm a good instructor. I've been teaching English for, gosh, about 13, 14 years now. Started a long time ago. I've taught in several different countries: Korea, Namibia, the Dominican Republic, the United States. And now this is like kind of started teaching online with this channel and doing these live lessons. And I think the reason I love these live lessons is because we have lessons in real time. You guys can interact. I can ask you questions. You can answer them. And you can have as many people as you want in the classroom and keep it large. So that's the one thing I love about these live lessons. So, wow, turns out that you are an old man. Emerson, yes, I am an old man and proud of it. So I am no longer in my 20s. I'll give you that. I'm not going to tell you exactly how old I am, but I don't think it would be it would be hard for you guys to find out. So Mustafa Radi says, sometimes the dictionary pronounced the word in a weird way. For example, bottom in Cambridge Dictionary. Sound isn't clear. I hear autumn instead of bottom. So yeah, I think I think it's great to use online dictionaries and you can listen to the pronunciation. Sometimes, I forget which dictionary it is. One of them will give you both the British and the American pronunciation. I'm not sure if it's the Cambridge Dictionary, but a lot of them will just give you the British pronunciation. But bottom, yeah, if I were to say it in my American, bottom and autumn. So you do hear that B. It's a voice sound, that bottom. Bottom and autumn. Where is it? Somebody asked, Ahmed Bakur, how to accept or decline an invitation in English politely. I would say how to accept. I would say, yeah, I would love to. If somebody's asking you to do something, or you'd say, yes, I would love to do that. Or if somebody's offering you food, I would love to have some. I think it's great to use the word love because it shows you're excited. If you want to decline, just say no, thank you. No, thank you is perfectly fine to decline something. Somebody asked, where am I from? I am from the United States. I have lived in about maybe 15 different states. So I've moved all over. Grew up along the East Coast. The last place that I lived in the United States was the great state of California. Luis Angel, hi, hello, how are you? Yes. Suhami asked, could you tell me why English has become to be the international language? That's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with just the history, mostly the history within the last 100 years. Before you had the British Empire, and that spread all over the world, and that I think it helped. It made English a primary language in many countries in Asia and Africa. And then I think towards these last 50 years, I know that the United States has developed a lot. They've become, especially economically. And because of that, I think the US exported a lot of the language. They exported the language in movies, in music, in TV, a lot of pop culture. And I think because the last 100 years, because of the UK, because of the United States, it's kind of just become the international language. And honestly, I know some students think like, it's difficult to learn. I think it's good for many of you guys. I almost think it's not. It's something that part of me almost wish it wasn't the case, because sometimes for me trying to learn another language, sometimes it becomes more difficult because you go to another country and you want to practice the language, and many people will speak English, and what it does is sometimes I think it makes people a bit lazier. If you're a native English speaker and it's not a good thing, I think people tend to maybe become a little bit lazier when it comes to learning English, or when it comes to learning other languages, because some people will have, it's a very ignorant viewpoint, that they'll have this expectation that other people should speak English, and they become too lazy to try and learn another language. But yeah, I think it's something I wish. I've learned Spanish when I was growing up. I'm trying to learn Romanian now. I learned Korean when I was in Korea, and my Korean's a bit rusty at this point. But yeah, I think it's good to always learn other languages. I think it really, really, really keeps the mind sharp, and it's great for your mental health. So who else? How do you say hola in English? Pete, hola is just hello. Usually you could say hello. Informally, you'd say hi. I tend to just say what's up. I always start out my videos, what's up, everyone? Welcome to today's lesson. Daria asks, do you often use idioms in your daily life? Yes, I do. I can't say that everybody will use idioms, but I noticed that when I started teaching, and especially when sometimes I would stop and say, oh, here's an idiom. And once I started doing that, I noticed just how many idioms that I tend to use, not only in my conversations with other people, but even when I'm teaching, I tend to just throw them out there, and then I try to catch myself and explain what the idiom is. So yes, I end up using English. I end up using idioms quite often. What does it mean? Speaking of an idiom, Be Happy asked, what does I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited mean? So if somebody turns up out of the blue, it means that you show up unexpectedly. If you show up and people were not expecting you to be there, then you can say, oh, it turned up out of the blue, or somebody turned up out of the blue. Let's see, kind of getting through these again. You guys are asking a lot of great questions. What's the most difficult thing about learning Spanish for you? I think the most difficult thing about Spanish for me, the most difficult thing is listening, because I think that goes for any language. If I'm learning Korean, Romanian, listening is always a challenging skill for me, and I think for many of you, it might be one of the more easier language skills. But it's always been a challenge for me. So I'd say listening was the most difficult thing, because it's always easy for me to just tune out. And I'm listening to the conversation, and then suddenly I tune out for like maybe 5 seconds, and then suddenly I'm lost. So listening is one of the most difficult things. In many of the countries where I've visited, like especially the Dominican Republic, people would speak pretty fast, so that made listening a bit more challenging. But as for my speaking skills, like again, that's something like I'll just do. I know that I make a ton of mistakes when I'm speaking Spanish, but I'll just go ahead and say it anyways. I don't really care. So that is one good thing for me about speaking. I'll just go ahead and say it, even though I know I'm making mistakes. And typically people, they can understand for the most part. Did you like teaching in the Dominican Republic? Pari asked, yes, I really liked it. I was teaching at a Catholic orphanage. I taught there for 1 year. It was a public school, and I taught grades 5 to 9. So teaching middle school students at that age, it can be, it was a challenge, to say the least. But let's see. So I may ask teacher, kick it off. What does it mean? To kick it off means to, let's kick it off, to begin, to start something. Often I'd say like, another idiom would be, let's get this show on the road. To get the show on the road is another idiom to say, let's begin, let's start. Let's see. And some YouTube video, Alessandra says, in some YouTube videos, someone says, oh my gosh, what does it mean? Oh my gosh is more of, it's just like an explanation talking about surprise. You were just like, it's an interjection. It's more saying like, oh my gosh, like you wouldn't believe what happened. So it's kind of just a way of saying like, showing that you're surprised, like, oh my gosh. Another way of saying it, people would say, oh my God. And again, if you're texting somebody, OMG, same thing. It's used in that same context. Somebody says, OMG, like this is what happened. You wouldn't believe it. So, oh my gosh, that's what it means. Let's see. Hi, Wes. Hi, Avi. I understand, Gibson. I understand your English 100%, but when I'm in the U.S., I don't understand native speakers. Yes, so a lot, many students have told us this. They say, "Oh, I understand when you're speaking, but I don't understand when I'm listening to English out on the streets or if I'm watching a movie." Part of that is because I just tend to speak slower, and this is my natural speed. Some of you have asked me, they're like, "Why don't you speak faster?" And it's like, no, this is the speed that I speak English, and I think part of that has developed over time because I've been teaching English for so many years. I've just naturally slowed down my speech because I want people to understand me. And now this is just the way I talk. So I tend to speak a bit slower, which I think is good for English learners because I think it's always great to listen at your level. So if you don't understand, then that might mean that listening is a little higher than your level. It's always great to practice at that level, but it's great if you understand, especially if the speech is a little slower. YouTube, I tell people before, if they tell me speak faster or speak slower, YouTube allows you guys to control that. You can speed up the speech. You can also slow it down if it's too fast. So YouTube is great for that. And I think it's good to practice, listen at your level, and over time, you will just get better so that the next time you're out on the street and listening to somebody else, even if they're speaking really fast, then you're going to understand what they're saying. Let's see. How are you? Lanisha, I am good. How are you? Can you say hello in Spanish? Imagino que ustedes les gustaría escucharme hablando español porque siempre estoy hablando sobre, soy, soy un estudiante de español. Yo he estado hablando español hace como 10 años más o menos. Y en este momento necesito practicar más, practicar, porque en este momento no tengo algunas oportunidades de hablar español y por eso mi vocabulario me he olvidado muchas palabras estos últimos años. So there is some Spanish for you guys if you guys want to, and I'm sure again you're thinking about my grammar. You're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Or my pronunciation may be off on many words, but again, it's all good practice. I think I know people have practiced using YouTube, and actually they put up videos of them speaking the language they want to learn. So you guys could do that in English and try to practice speaking. Let's see what else. Shadra, which language are you speaking? I can't understand. Well, I was attempting to speak Spanish and talking a little bit in Spanish. So again, what's the difference between how do you feel and what do you feel? South Korea, excellent, right on. So if somebody asks like, how do you feel? It's maybe asking, I think like, if somebody feels sick or they feel tired or there's something maybe not like a little wrong with that person, and say, hey, how do you feel? Or maybe you're asking their opinion about something, like, how do you feel? That would be similar if you're talking about an opinion, because nobody asks like, what do you feel? They'd say, what do you feel like doing? And in that case, if you're asking somebody, what do you feel like doing? Then you're asking their opinion. What do you want to do? What do you feel like doing? I think that's a common way that it's used if you're talking about what do you feel? What do you feel like doing? Looks like, do you speak Portuguese? Nancy asks. No, unfortunately, I don't, except for obrigado. That is my limit, the extent of my Portuguese. I just want to ask, what's your favorite food? Ooh, that is a good question. Like I said, we eat Indian a lot. I love Indian food. I also love Mexican food. Is great. And there's so many. I don't have one specific favorite food. I do love beef stew. That's another one. But I think my tastes change over time. So it's like one year I eat a lot of this, and then another year I'll eat this food. So my favorite food tends to change over time. All right. So Another thing that I wanted to share with you guys, again, if you guys like what we do and you want to connect with us further and help support our lessons, we are on Patreon. I wanted to throw that plug out there. I'll put this in the link if you guys want to check it out, our Patreon page. You can check that out right here. And again, remember, sign up for that our email list. We will send you guys some very cool stuff from time to time, as well as give you updates, because one thing that we want to do here at Interactive English, we are going to start offering online courses. And when I say online courses, it's going to be in a similar format like our live lessons, because we want to have as many people as we can in the classroom, and we're going to come out with a beta. And if you're talking about a beta, it's kind of like an initial practice. And the first course we're going to do is all about building vocabulary, because that will really help you improve your other skills. Like, it's going to help you read faster. It's going to help your speaking and your overall English fluency. So the first course that we're going to do is building vocabulary. We're going to do a beta version of it probably in a couple of months. And if you guys are signed up to that newsletter, we'll give you more information about it, and you guys will be the first ones that will be able to sign up for that. So again, thank you guys. Again, I'm gonna have to call it quits. There's so many other things, few other things I need to do today, especially editing some videos. It's been about 40 minutes. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being a part of our community. If you have other questions, please write those in the comments. We love hearing from you guys, and we try to answer as many as we can. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Priti, Angel Demon, Avi. I'm going to read your name in Korean. Sasongik. Thank you. Probably my pronunciation was not good. Giselle, Olivia, Rosalinda, Tamara, Pooty's baby. Hello. Thank you for being here. Krista, thank you guys for joining me today. And we will be back next week for another live lesson. We'll make a post about it later. Set it on your calendar. Hopefully everything is working perfectly at that point. We'll see if we can work out the kinks. Thank you guys. Again, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next time. So long.